guess he won't give up, no, no, cause you know he's way too tough. He's gonna do whatever it takes. He's gonna find a way. Casey never liked school much. All the kids would laugh when he read in class. Teachers tried to help him out, but they didn't know what to do, so they just let it pass. Sometimes he wanted to scream out loud, hide his head in the sound of the clouds. D-Y-S-L-E-X-I-A, he could do anything to make it go away, even though he knows it's here to stay. But Casey won't give up, no, no, cause you know he's way too tough. He's gonna do whatever it takes. He's gonna find a way.
Hello, everyone. Happy New Month and happy Sunday. I want to say a very big thank you to everyone who is here today, right now. Oziamaike, I see you. Thank you so much for joining me. I see you, Vicky Wilson Walker. I see you, Sunday Precious. Everyone who has joined in on Cadet Academy website, on my Facebook page, on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for always making it a day for us all to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Blessing Gabi, I see you. And well done. Well done with the successful completion of the Dyslexia Online Conference. Wow, it's been a beautiful, beautiful Sunday for me. I hope it had been for you all too. I'm really excited about today, as always. And I want to thank you all for always coming to class on time. You all deserve something special. I'll think about it. Um, yeah. Good news. I hope you've all ordered for your copy of the Dyslexia Vibe. It's here live and direct. So for everyone that's asking questions on how to obtain their copies and how to teach children with dyslexia, this is the answer. I'm really, 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 really excited. So if you'll be paying attention, and during the break, we'll play the music on dyslexia again that has a copy of this book and how you can purchase a copy. You can actually purchase a copy via our website. So it's www.cacademy.sch.ng/bookstore. And when you get there, you'll find other copies, other books like Special Needs Made Easy and Mastering Autism. And of course, our latest baby that's going to change the world, it's going to take Africa as a whole. Get your copy and let's make the difference in the lives of children with dyslexia. Thank you so much, everyone. So back to today is episode 41. Can you believe it? I'm like, oh my God, thank you. You all make it what's my wow. You make it, oh my God, I'm always doing this. Mr. Alex, welcome. Welcome. Can you hear me, Mr. Alex? Hello, Mr. Alex. Okay, I need to tune off my other device. Good to have you, Mr. Alex. Um, of course, you're going to sign. Let me know if you can hear me. Thank you. Thank you. So it's episode 41. I was about to say 71. We'll get there very soon. And by the time we get there, really would have made a whole lot of difference in the lives of individuals with special needs. So today's episode 41, and the title is Traumatic Occurrences and Families of Children with Special Needs. I'd like to say a few things about that, but before I do that, I want to invite in our guests. We have two specialists in this field, the field of safety and psychology and mental health issue. So without much ado, I'll bring in my first guest. So we have, wow. Hello, Gochi. You need to unmute yourself.
Hi, Ma. Good
Good to
afternoon, Ma.
see
Happy to be
you. You
here.
look good. I like your background. Wow,
Thank
Dr. Chilodi,
you.
good to
Thank
see you
you.
too. Thank you. I really appreciate both of you because I know that Sundays are days that people just want to rest and just get more the energy they need for a new start of the new week. So thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show today. Today's show is particularly
Yeah.
interesting as always, and I'd want you to help us out in finding out because actually it's called the show is called Finding Out with Special Needs. And today we're talking about traumatic occurrences and families of children with special needs. I can hear a background. Is that from me? Oh,
I
that's
think
from
it's
you.
it's
Okay. So what we're gonna do, if you're not speaking, you can just mute yourself. And then when you're speaking, come back on. I understand Ugochi had to step out of an event just to be with us. Thank you so much. So we'll try and see how we can make do with the little background noise as she speaks. So today we're talking about traumatic occurrences and um, families of children with special needs. So we're going to look at it from two angles. We're going to look at traumatic occurrences, what they are, and then we're going to look at the effects on the child with special needs, particularly children with I would want us to focus it more on children with because special needs is wide. I want us to focus on children with intellectual disability whose IQ are usually lower than the regular IQ, like the average IQ. I want us to look at the effects of trauma on these individuals and their parents too, because most times individuals with intellectual disabilities, their parents are the one who are there supporting them 24/7, depending on the level of severity of the disability. So we're trying to look at what these traumatic occurrences are. We'll look at the different types. But during the write-up for this week, I mentioned the effect of COVID because I had to in my little way, I'm not an expert when it comes to a mental health issue and counseling. But then in my own little way, when parents talk to me and say, look, Lola, it's been tough because our children, sometimes the children with autism, they like routine and they need to go out. But because of COVID and all of the precautions we had to take, they were locked. I want to use locked up because they were not locked up. They stayed at home for so long. It's been like they stayed at home for almost 6 to 7 months, and then as that began to tell on the children, it was beginning to tell on their behavior. We know there's the way individuals with special needs that who cannot communicate their needs respond to such situation. They begin to put up behavior that are not totally acceptable or behavior that you have never seen them exhibiting before. And usually this behavior is just a way of them communicating to you. They might not be able to say it verbally, but they are saying to you that I do not like what is going on, or this is the effect of what is going on with me. So that's for COVID. And then look at what happened with the NSAS protest also. We also had issues where towards the end of the protest or while the protest was going on peacefully, we had occurrences where some individuals began to loot and cause violence upon buildings. They began to steal stuff and all that. So that also was somehow a traumatic event in the last week. I wanted to look at what these effects are on individuals with special needs. And the reason I wanted us to do this is because usually we talk about neurotypical individuals. We talk about individuals without special needs. And we are wondering how for me, it was a tough one. I wouldn't lie to you. At some point, I just went off social media totally. And of course, beyond what went on, we see children with special needs who experience cyberbullying too. And somehow this also brings about stress for them and depression and anxiety. So we want to look at all of this holistically, taking a cue from what happened with COVID and the events during the protests that led to violence too. So we want to look at the effect on the children and the effect on the parents. But like I was saying to Safety Chick, let me use your brand name earlier on. I say, you know what? Sometimes when this thing happens, we don't even think of, and that's with almost everything that happens to us as individuals. We think of neurotypical individuals first. We think of individuals without disability before we think of the next thing, before we even think of individuals with disability. And the truth of the matter is, it's easier for individuals without disability to experience, to get help than those with disability because most times They find difficult to explain what they're going through. They find difficult to explain to you what the whole situation is. And what happens is that they go into post traumatic stress um, disorder, and that is a major issue, because once that occurs to them, nothing else would go right with them. So I have two of you here. I've introduced my topic. I've given you a preamble as to what we'll be discussing. I would want Safety Chick because I know she's an expert when it comes to safety consciousness. And if there's anything, it's always better, I believe, always better to be proactive as opposed to be reactive. But unfortunately for us in this part of the world, we can just wake up without being prepared for those traumatic experiences, and then we'll find ourselves in it. So, but I would want Safety Chick before she goes into the preventive measures we can take regarding some of these issues. Another good example of traumatic events is also the issue of sexual and physical abuses for children with special needs. You know, so I would want Safety Chick to handle the aspect of the preventive time of what we're discussing, while Dr. Junadi will talk about the reactive part. So how do we manage the mental health? How do we manage the stress? How do we manage helping them to get back to a state where we can actually relate with them despite what they've been through? Thank you so much for listening to me. I hope I'm clear with what we're trying to do today. And for our audiences, please, I'd want you to please go with us on this journey, because it's a topic that we hardly talk about. Most of the time, we talk about how to educate these children, but we forget that psychological state of mind, that physiological state of mind, that safety comes first before we can educate them or meet other needs, you know. And then, of course, this also has to do with the parents too. So we want to talk about that today. But before I go on again, like I said, I would want our guests to introduce themselves and the great work they're doing. Each time I bring up our guests, I do a good job to read their bios. I'm like, wow, we have great people in this country. And I want us to hear from the horse's mouth. Safety Chick will tell us about the great things she's doing. And I know she's also doing something when it comes to children with special needs. If I'm not mistaken, I think she's done a book, The Adventures of Muna, has something to happen with children with special needs. She'll tell us about that. Dr. Junadu will tell us the great work he's doing. Dr. Junadu, I was in awe when I read your bio. So you tell us the great things you're doing also, and then we'll hit it up with the topic for today. Thank you so much. Ladies first, over to you.
Okay, so thank you so much, Ma, for inviting me. I appreciate that. Please pardon the noise in the background. I just had to be here and then also be here because it was really important, a significant day in my friend's life. So I had to be here. But then again, it also, because this topic is really important, I also knew that I was going to do this. So I am Gochi, as everybody knows, and some people call me Safety Chick because of the work I do in raising safety consciousness. So I'm basically about prevention. I believe that with a lot more knowledge, people will become more careful. And if they are more careful, a lot of accidents will be reduced as much as is reasonably practicable. I lost my mom to an avoidable road accident just because the driver was careless. She wasn't crossing the road. She wasn't on the wrong side of the road. She wasn't doing anything wrong. Someone else's carelessness cost her own life. And I believe that if more people in the society are more informed, to a really large extent, it would help. So I started taking the knowledge to school. So we have 3 books in the Adventures of Muna series. We recently did a game to prepare children for resumption in the pandemic. And our 3rd book had to focus on children with special needs, because when we did a pilot study a while ago, we realized that one of the challenges that some of the children had was knowledge in terms of how to deal with other children with special needs. They didn't know how to react, what to do. And sometimes parents were transferring their own inhibitions to the children. How can a parent feel that just by their own child talking to a child with special needs, the child would catch it? Is that how it is caught? Of course not. So I just thought, okay, we need to see how to begin to educate children early so that children know how to relate with other children that have special, and understand that these are just human beings like yourself. Treat them with kindness, understand who they are. And so that's why I do the work I do in the area of child safety and all that. So I just thought to specify a bit more on the aspect of special needs, since the audience here is basically the special needs family and all that.
Thank you so much for all that you do. We are super proud of you. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Jinadu. Please tell us about yourself and the great works you're doing.
All right, thank you, and I hope you guys can hear me.
Loud and
Just
clear.
symbolize you can hear me. All right, that's great. So my name is Samuel, Samuel Adekunle Jinadu. I'm a clinical psychologist. Uh, I've been in practice for a long time. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. Currently, I am the head of psychology team at the behavioral medicine unit in Caro General Hospital, and I also am the secretary to health and safety pillar of the FCT COVID-19 emergency response team. Of course, I've had a lot of training and I've done a lot of work. I really can't really start mentioning them. One very interesting one I did, we did together with an NGO, was the revalidation of assessment tools for children. You know, tools that would help us assess depression, conduct disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder in children, revalidating them, and then, you know, coming up with local content, uh, more like using our local language, Hausa, Pidgin, you know, to ask those questions that the Westerners will want to really use English to ask, so that our local people can really understand what we are saying. So we did that in Abuja, and it was very great. I think it's a published work already. So, well, that's the story of Sam, and I'm really very happy to be here. We I just hope and I pray that we'll be able to really dive more into this topic and then really explain a bit more, so that we demystify the concept and the you know, the ignorance that surrounds disability, that surrounds special needs and all that, so that everybody starts seeing individuals with special need as their responsibility to ensure that they safeguard and they protect.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Each time I come on this show, I don't want to go all spiritual on us, but I know that God always has a purpose, because everyone that steps on this show has a heart for individuals with special needs. They're not just coming as professionals, they're coming to help us find help indeed for individuals with special needs. And they always bear it as it is. We go back smiling, we go back with knowledge, we're able to help individuals with special needs to make a difference in the world and their families. Thank you so much. So I thought to read out what I posted when I put out the flyer on Friday to help us set the perspective right on what trauma could be. So a traumatic event, I'm reading that a traumatic event is an incident that causes physical, emotional, spiritual, or psychological harm. The person experiencing this distressing event may feel threatened, anxious, or frightened as a result. And when I was speaking earlier on, I said that a lot of things that occurred in the last few months, in the last few weeks, and even neurotypical individuals without disability, it's been a very, what's that word? Let me use the word depressing time, because I felt depressed last week. As a matter of fact, my husband had to seize my phone from me for a while, because each time I look at these things, I'm just in tears. I was unfortunate to be in the middle of the protesters, and I want to say those were the protesters, because these people had bottles, cutlasses, tires, and I was in my car just praying and hoping that I get home safely. It was an horrible event. Since that day, I said to myself, I'm not going out until it's absolutely necessary. And that's me, who do not have, that's an individual who does not have any issue with special needs or intellectual disability, any form of special needs. Because for me, time I remember that event, I'm like, when I need to drive out, I'm like, I hope. Until when everything was, I settled down. I saw cars being burned. I saw human being burned. I saw places being looted. A French shop was emptied to the ground, you know. And I'm just thinking in my mind, this is me not going through any issue, not going through any health challenge, not going through any disability. What's going to happen to a child if, for example, I have a child with probably a child with Down syndrome whose IQ cannot understand, whose intellectual quotient cannot understand what is happening? What's going to happen to this child? As a parent, I wasn't seeing, I didn't see that coming. And I went out just to go about my daily activity, and I got that. Imagine if I had a child I was taking to school that day, or 2 kids or 3 children with me with special needs. What would the experience be like? And that's why I wanted to talk to us about ways to ensure that we prevent our children. What should we do when we hear things going on like that? Or if kids, for example, kids that are abused, I wanted to also come from the aspect of our recent occurrences, and then go into specific things that could happen to these children that could be traumatic to them, and how we can prevent them, and even the parents can prevent themselves. Because the truth is that for parents of children with special needs or families, if they are not in the right state of mind, then there's no way they can help their children. So over to you. Please feel free to talk to us as to how we can prevent these children and how these parents can prevent themselves from such traumatic events.
Okay, so thank you so much for that question. And I think that this is a really important conversation to have, because we operate in a part of the world where we really do not talk much about these things. It's just recently that even people like you and I can say, oh, I felt mental strain, without somebody thinking that, oh, maybe your head is not correct or you're running mad. You know, prior to now, people will think when you say you have mental stress and all that, maybe you are mad or you're about to run mad. Do you see what I mean? So, yes, so it's really important that we are beginning to have this kind of conversation, most especially as it affects children with special needs, because these children are also human beings, and if we are not thinking about them in that sense, it means we're not going to be catering to people who actually need our help and our support. Okay, so there are 3 aspects to it. There is before the crisis, there is during the crisis, and then there is after the crisis. And it's always important that when we're making plans, we are preparing our children and even ourselves, we consider these 3 aspects of it. So before, I know that many times we're in a part of the world where people will say, oh, God forbid, and nothing would happen. There's no one who could have forbidden the end SARS protest from happening. It eventually came and met all of us and altered the activities across the world. So what we should be looking at is, yes, we don't want something bad to happen. But if we find ourselves in a situation like this, what are we supposed to do? For many people, the end SARS protest was the first time that they were beginning to think that, oh my God, this is affecting my mental health. That should make all of us to go to the drawing board and say, okay, now that this has happened, this is what I have learned from the process. Going forward, what can I do to ensure that this does not happen again? So before the crisis happens, before the trauma happens, what needs to be done? And so the first thing that needs to be done is we need to acquire knowledge, because you need knowledge on how to manage the situation. And now when you, the adult, acquires the knowledge, you need to ask yourself, how do I simplify this for this child of mine living with an intellectual development and disability? Do you see what I mean? So you simplify it and say, okay, baby, this is actually what is going on now. This is if you need to use pictures, if you need to use a story, anything that would simplify it to their level. Because again, you know your child, you know the level at which they can understand what you're sharing with them. So you're going to leverage that knowledge to determine how you are going to pass information to this child. So now, once you have been able to simplify knowledge to that child's level, the next thing you need to do is you need to create a plan, and then you must review that plan with your child. So you're telling your child that, oh, if you feel this sort of way, this is how I'm expecting you to act. Now, when that happens, you tell, okay, so now I've told you this. So what do you do when you find yourself in this situation? Let your child demonstrate to you. Let your child act to you. What that does for you is it helps you to see if the child really understood what you said. And then if the child makes some mistake, you have time to correct it. I know that many times we would like to say, God forbid, and it's not my portion, but it's better to prepare and not be surprised when something happens than for you to be totally shocked and surprised and you are just numb. You don't even know what action to take. So that's about before. So get the knowledge, simplify it to their level, create a plan. And then this plan, you must review it with them, maybe on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis, whatever works for your family, because I understand that there can't be a one-size-fits-all. So what I always teach people about safety is, my job is to teach you the basics. Your job is to make it to suit your own unique context. So if you know that your child is the one that will be more expressive with drawing, then by all means go the drawing route. If you know storytelling would work just fine, go that route. If you know just normal conversation would work, then you go that route. Now, during the crisis, so for example, the protest happened for about 10 to 12 days, and so we had children. At some point, children even came out with their parents. So now you are a parent with a child with a disability, special needs, and you can't bring your child out. But you need to also carry your child along in terms of sharing with them. So ask them, how do they feel? You know, listen to them, and then try to speak to them. And again, you must be really, it's important to say that you must try to stay calm, because if you as a parent, you are not taking it well, then how do you want them to take it? So I know that you might be thinking, I've not gotten myself, how do I manage a child? And you see, that's where we have the responsibility as an adult. We have to try to find a way to anchor our own self, get help, get support, so that we are able to take care of these children that are relying on us. So you have to stay calm, make sure that there's no pressure, talk about it with your child. Allow your child to also tell you how they feel. Have a fun and friendly conversation. Let them know that all is going to be all right. At this stage, a lot of reassurance is so important. Your child needs to know that things are going to get better. This is not how it would always be. Let them be that reassurance, right? And then there is something that a lot of parents did not take, they didn't really take seriously this period, because I saw a lot of information on social media that buttressed that fact. As parents were being assaulted with pictures and videos on their mobile devices, they were living it anyhow. So their children were also coming in contact with these pictures and videos. And that is not good, because if as an adult you are distressed by these pictures and videos, how much more a young child? I watched a friend of mine in Cote d'Ivoire put a post on Facebook, and she was saying that her child was asking her, why are they shooting at the people? Are they thieves? Because the child's understanding is that it is only thieves that you shoot at. Do you see? So we must be careful not to allow our children have access to pictures and videos that would be upsetting, that will be traumatizing. As much as we have these things come on our mobile devices, we must keep it away from them as much as possible. Also, if the news is going to be bringing it into your home, turn it off, or watch the news somewhere else where the children will not see, because this is a child with special needs, and you are not even certain what can trigger your child from that image or from that video. So by all means, you need to shield them from that. Now, after the protest, after the trauma has happened, then you must still have conversations again with the child, talking through it. How do you feel? If you need help, mommy is here for you. If you need to give more hugs, by all means, give hugs. If you need to take it, whatever you know that this child appreciates, that communicates reassurance, please do so. This is not the time to mize it. And I know that you might say that I'm a parent, I also have needs. Who is fulfilling it for me? Now, the truth is, because you are a parent, you are going to get up. I'm going to talk about what parents can do. But you as a parent, you have a duty to be there for your child. You don't have an excuse to say, oh, because I'm so down, I can't do it. Because you're responsible for your child. You are responsible. And so if you're responsible for your child, then it is your best interest to go the extra mile so that that child is fine. Okay, then again, because sometimes again, some children with special needs are doing well with routines, and because of maybe we've had to be indoors for a while, those routines have been disrupted. You should think about viable alternatives. What are the other ways you can reestablish the routine in a way that it may not be how it used to be, but it still creates some semblance of normalcy? It is really so important that somehow you find a way to create viable alternatives. Now, I've talked about it from the angle of the children. Now, parents, you must understand that you are not a superman, you are not a superwoman. There is no prize for the parents that suffered the most, or the parents that did everything by themselves the most. Please get help. If you need to speak to your friend, speak to your friend. If you need to speak to a professional, speak to a professional. If you need to speak to another parent who also has a child with special needs, all the support network, please get it, because you need to be strong to do the work that needs to be done in your house. You cannot pour from an empty cup. So you need to make sure that there's a place you are filling yourself up from, so that when you go back home, you are able to give the love, the protection, and the support that your child needs. Then it's also important that you realize that you can't run away from this thing. You have to face it head on. So, I mean, you can't postpone taking care of your child till next week when you are fine, or next month. No, your child lives with you. And so you just have to face it somehow. somehow. So for example, personally, when I was just, getting overwhelmed with what was going on, I made sure that I didn't come to social media unnecessarily. I made sure that my WhatsApp does not auto download images. So when people said all those things to all those diverse groups, it doesn't save to my gallery. So I can't be going through my gallery and then I'll be seeing all sorts of annoying pictures and videos. No, because I control what comes into my device. So that was me being very intentional about what is coming into my space. I also knew that there were times I wanted to work and I just didn't feel it. I wanted to go and sleep because it's the person that is alive that will work. So as a parent, you've got to understand when you are getting low, when your energy level is getting low, and the things that replenish your energy so that you are going to be there for yourself and also for the child. And then you must understand, when you are living with children, you have a child with special needs. It's not everybody in your home that has special needs. So you have to understand that the way you are feeling, other members of the family are affected. So see how to ensure that everybody gets the help and support they need. If an elder sibling needs support, or a younger sibling, or a spouse, see how everybody can be carried along so that nobody feels left out and feels overwhelmed. Because somehow these things can end up transferring to the child that is living with the special need. And then of course, try to see how you can bring relaxation techniques into your activities. So deep breath, having comedy night in the family so everybody can just laugh, play, dance, play games. Just do things that will take away from the intensity of the moment, the intensity of the trauma. Those things help. So those are my thoughts for now. I'll just stop.
Wow, those were deep thoughts, really. I had to start taking down notes because I couldn't even keep up with all the points you shared with us. And they are practical points because, like I said, I was putting myself in the shoes of those parents, and at some point I shut down the news, the everything that was going, the broadcast and all that, and all that was going through my mind. I wonder what's happening to this parent. I wonder if I had a child with probably Down syndrome or any form of intellectual disability with me in the car that day. It was really scary. But I like how you shared with us how we can take preventive measures by being prepared, like the thing you do before, during, and after. And that's one thing we don't really pay attention to. We have like to say, oh, God forbid, it is well, it won't happen to us. But when it happens, what do you now do? But the good thing is that, there's always a way out, really. So we're happy that we here to speak to us on how to take preventive measures, and how to guard ourselves as parents, how to protect the children, how to keep them safe during traumatic events. And I'm going to come back to you again to give us practical tips on other kind of traumatic events that these children go through. But generally, this works for every kind of event. But I would like to talk about a particular one or two so that we can actually drive it home better. And we are giving particular examples so that people can actually relate with it. But this has been so helpful. Thank you so much, Ugochi. Now, over to you, Doctor. We know that we are in Nigeria, and and this is not, it's not something we should be proud of, but we are the type that we are just, or after we do things on a reactive basis. Like what has happened, what do I now do? But sometimes it happens even when you are prepared, because sometimes you're prepared, plan A, plan B, and still you get into depression, you get into post traumatic stress disorders, you get into anxiety and all of that. So looking at this, what are the ways? Personally, I'll give my own example. At some point, I just felt I couldn't do anything. I needed to focus. And then I went into, being present, taking deep breaths, As a matter of fact, I was thinking of calling you, doctor, like, what do I do? I'm just stressed by all that is going on, So I want you to please shed some light on how parents with children with special needs can help manage situations when they get to the phase where they can't take it anymore and they need to have a reactive measure to be able to help themselves. Are you there? Oh my God.
Okay, sorry, I didn't get that question, but because my network is playing tricks on me. But I guess you're asking about psychological challenge that can come up from such traumatic experiences.
Yes, and how they can manage it.
Okay, so thank you so very much, Ugochi, for that very elaborate and extensive, opener. I think you've done a lot of work for me. To start with, traumatic experiences are very overwhelming. That is why they are traumatic in the first place. If you can spread out all the events and all the happenings that an individual experienced in a moment into a week, it wouldn't be traumatic. But because so many things are happening and they are of high intensity, they are happening at the same time within a very short period of time, that's what makes it traumatic. So when a traumatic experience happens, or when an individual perceive a traumatic experience, the person becomes overwhelmed. That is the first thing that you would notice. That feeling of overwhelmingness. The person either wants to give up or wants to, react in a particular way. So we have certain emotional manifestation that you would see. The first is the emotional dysregulation. The emotion of the individual or the mood of the individual becomes dysregulated. So you start seeing people get depressed, you start people get anxious, you start seeing people get develop panic reaction to issues. Luckily, I was part of the team that is responding to COVID, especially that period where COVID was, much talked about. And I was one young lady called me up by I think 1 a.m. You know, because she was having panic attack. Why was she having panic attack? She was thinking she had contracted COVID. Okay, have you traveled out? Do you have any contact? Absolutely none. But because she wasn't sure, she doesn't know she doesn't know the progression of what is going to happen. She just started developing hyperventilation, cannot sleep, start getting irritable, restless, and all this. So you would see that happen very well. And the reason why that would happen is when an individual becomes it triggers the survival instinct of that person. So every reaction you see people experience, it is absolutely normal. It is because how they are processing the information. So that's why I totally agree with what Gochi said with respect to guiding the kind of information that you have access to, guiding what you watch, guiding what you read, guiding what you
Okay, and when Dr. Janado comes back, I'm going to have him probably tune up his video because sometimes, can you hear us, Dr. Janado?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I think
The
it might
network
be
is
better
fluctuating,
for us.
but
Yeah, it is, but I think you should turn up your video, so that we
okay.
can. It helps better. We need to hear you.
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
please
that's
go on.
fine. Okay. So, all right. So what I was saying is, you see, when an individual when an individual encounter traumatic experiences, the first thing that happens or one should do is know that every reaction that that person is going through is as a result of how the person is processing the information, processing what is happening around. When an individual reacts hyper, when an individual find it difficult to breathe, cannot go out, start getting cranky and easily agitated, it is because there is a threat to the individual survival that the person perceived. If the person doesn't perceive a threat, the person would not react that way. So, like I said initially, that's why I totally agree with what Ugochi said with respect to guiding the kind of information you have access to. You know, deliberately, and it must be deliberate and conscious. You can't just allow yourself to start viewing very disturbing pictures, and you don't expect yourself to react in a particular way. So even when children are watching TV or news with the family, you want to be sure that the kind of, especially at this period, if you can guide the access to what they see, because sometimes you see a dead body on the street with blood stain all over. That individual that you are sitting with, that child with intellectual disability that you are sitting with, the child sees that, it goes into the child is processing it differently. The child may not perhaps react immediately, but by the time the reaction will start, it's as a result, you will start seeing nightmare, you will start seeing the inability to sleep, anxiety, depression, all those things will manifest because the child has internalized and has perceived or has seen an image that is very scary. So deliberately guiding what you watch, deliberately guiding the kind of things you see, the kind of news you have access to, very, very important so that you don't destabilize your mental health. So for us, what we usually do is we reprocess the information that this person has been exposed to. Because one thing with cognitive behavioral therapy, one of the model that we use, very often is that your thoughts guides the way you react emotionally, and the way you react emotionally determine the way you behave. So it all proceeds from thoughts. So once your thought is disturbed, once your thought is affected or distorted, you will see that in the person's emotion, something unnecessarily. There is something going on in the thought level. Until you're able to sit down, harvest, and then introspect with that person about what they are thinking about, what they've been exposed to, you won't be able to understand why they are reacting the way they are reacting. So we've seen a lot of individuals who, as a result of this, I've not seen anyone as a result of this NSAS process, but as a result of COVID, I've managed a lot of individuals who had a mental health breakdown, depression and anxiety, very, very prominent, as a result of that, and it was traumatic for them. And we had to do a lot of reprocessing, we have to do a lot of de-escalation, we have to do a lot of, modification of their behavior as a result of how they now adjusted themselves. So talking about children, you want to help them create what is normal. You want to help them have a sense of normalcy. I've interacted with someone who told me that, at a point they would just take the child, dress the child up. When school was shut down, they would just take the child up, dress him in the uniform, put him in the car, and then put on the car so they are going to school. And then after a while, they bring the child back and then bring him home so that he has a sense of what is normal.
Mm-hmm.
You want to help them, reconstruct what normalcy is. You want to help them have a safe space to also express how they are interact, what they're experiencing. Very, very important. So talking about children,
I think we've lost. I think we've lost Dr. Jinado, but I'm sure we'll be back. But while we wait, because I like the example you gave, and I think
very, very
some parents
important
actually.
them to see how they are underreacting to issues. And I don't know if I've been able to capture some of these things, but I think generally it is very clear. There is a very clear relationship between traumatic experiences and mental health breakdown. Very, very clear.
So
There is a very clear connection between COVID-19 lockdown and COVID-19 experience was probably because it's still very fresh. So we are anticipating that people will
absolutely,
not break down because again, mental health issue have started becoming a mainstream issue.
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Jinado. You did for me. You did justice to that. And the reason we're sharing this is just like Ugochi said. Most
Hello.
times we don't think of the
Okay.
before,
Okay. So we
during, and
also have
after.
yeah.
Go on, Dr. Jinado.
So can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So we also have the need to also supervise to ensure that they don't engage into substance abuse, because don't forget we're also looking at intellectually people who have intellectual difficulty, and they are prone to influences. They are very suggestible. So you suggest something to them, they want to run with it. You tell them that this thing will help you cope with this situation. You are feeling anxious, take this thing, it will help you cope. So you want to also ensure that negative influence don't come around them, because they can easily be influenced into using psychoactive substances.
Wow. Thank you so much.
So
Thank you.
I will stop here and then let's
Yes.
catch our breath
Thank
and
you.
then let's go for the next
Yeah, thank you so
question.
much. I like the way you answer the question. For me, you were directing your responses to parents, how they need to guide their children. And I was about saying one of the experiences one of the situations I experienced when COVID started, and there was a child with autism who wouldn't just, he couldn't understand why he should stay at home. So the mother would, and I thank God for that wisdom. She would dress the child up, really. She would dress her up, and then she would drive the child to the school. And then the child sees that, oh, this place is not open. And that's what was coming for the child, because it wouldn't just she wouldn't understand why would I go to school? This is my routine every day, you know. So that was a good one, and that parent adopted that. And of course, protecting the child, because individuals, particularly teenagers with special needs, they are prone to peer influences, abuse, and all of that. And then if you're not paying attention to those, then you're exposing them to more danger, which of course leads to more greater level of a mental health issue. So thank you so much for that. But like I said, when Ugochi spoke, I said I want us to go to specific traumatic experiences and see how we can work, because whether we like it or not, some individuals have experienced it and they've not been able to share how they're able to manage or prevent it for their children. And some didn't even know what to do. And then, of course, when the occurrences are taking place, or the traumatic experience are taking place, what can we still do? Because preventive, reactive, we can't do without talking about it. So, Ugochi, I wanted to talk about a situation that had been like, I don't want to use the word trend, but that's happening quite a lot, quite often, because for me, that wouldn't be a trend, but let's talk about it. Lately, we've had issues where individuals with special needs are sexually harassed, abused. What are the preventive measures parents can take to ensure that these individuals do not fall? I know that you have said things like preparing for, knowing what is going on, preparing your child and letting your child, before, the during, and the after, the knowledge of what it is. How do I guide my child? How do I tell my child about his sexuality? And then how do I simplify for my child? How do I make a plan? I want you to give, so for example, if a child, you talk to a child about how to prevent the child from sexual abuse, what are the specific things we should look out for and we should do as parents of children with special needs?
Okay, so first, the parent has to speak to the child about their bodies. So have that conversation with the child about their body parts, and let them know that, okay, if somebody touches you in so and so places, please tell me, because they are not supposed to. And depending on the age of the child, that determines how much detail you can go into. And also depending on the child's abilities, cognitive abilities, that also determines how much detail that you can give. But you must have a conversation about their bodies and the boundaries around their body. Now, there's something Barrister Kinami says, that every part of a child is private, because the truth is, the first time somebody is going to want to try to touch them, the person will not go straight to their breast or to their private parts. We first start to maybe just rubbing their cheek or trying to hug them and all that. So we have to let them understand that there are boundaries, and it is not compulsory for you to hug someone if you do not want to hug the person. When children have that sense of boundary, they are able to not accept whatever is thrown at them by an adult. So we need to have that conversation for starters. Then the next thing is that parents need to become more sensitive about who they are exposing their children to. Many times we are bringing physiotherapists into our homes, we are bringing nannies into our homes. Now, it's not I know that we have busy lives, so we may not always be there with the children. But before you delve into the busyness, you have to do your own checks. What are the systems you can use to ensure that this person is being supervised or monitored, so that they know that they cannot do rubbish? Because the reason why an adult, will be bold enough to beat a child with special needs is because they know that nobody is watching them and nobody would know about it. Because if they knew that somebody would know about it, they wouldn't do it. Almost all the videos we have seen of them beating these children mercilessly, if they knew they were being watched, they wouldn't have done it. They would have maybe tried to pretend to be nice. You see, so we have to make sure that we have systems for monitoring and supervision. Whether that system is going to be a fellow human being or a machine, that is a camera, whatever works for you, but you must have that system. Because once that system is there, whoever you're bringing into your home, either as a physiotherapist or as a nanny or a teacher, because again, lesson teachers or a teacher knows that they are not just they don't just have free hand to do whatever they want to do. They know that they are being monitored, and because of that, even if they don't want to be nice, they will make sure that they abide by the correct codes of conduct. So you have to have the first of all the conversation with the child about their bodies and boundaries, and let them know that they must tell you when something happens. That no good adult would ask them to keep a secret from them. And there's a difference between secret and surprise. Because maybe you want to do a surprise birthday party and they say, oh, don't tell so and so person we're doing a surprise birthday party. Now that is different. But when somebody is saying a secret about their private parts, their bodies, then they must say something. And again, another way this thing shows up is sometimes these people try to have certain kinds of conversations with the child. Oh, has anybody kissed you before? Do you have a boyfriend? Can I see a picture of your private part? You know, all the let them know that there are certain kinds of conversations that when they start to happen, they must report. I once had a podcast with Barrister Kinlami, and he gave a story where a girl in a school had been her teacher had asked her a question before. I think whether he asked her whether she was a virgin or if she had kissed somebody before, if she had a boyfriend, one of those questions. And so like, excuse me, sir, I'm not comfortable with that question that you're asking me. So she went home and she told her mother. Apparently, in their home, that conversation has been there that if a teacher, if anybody says this kind of things to you, please tell me. So of course she went home and she told her mom. The next day, her mother and her father, and that's one of the things I love about that story, the fact that the father showed up with the mother, went to that school, and guess what? In the course of investigation, they found that this teacher had already molested about 14 children in that school already. And the only reason we are hearing about it is because he asked the wrong child a question. So if more of our children know about boundaries, know the questions nobody should ask them, know that there are certain things that if they happen, they must report, it means that our parents will get more information. And again, I always say to parents, please, when your child tells you something, you must be seen to do something. Don't be, I went to a school in Abuja and I was teaching the kids and I asked them to ask questions. And one of the children came up and she said, somebody has touched her private part before, 5 years old. And so I asked her, who did you tell? She said, I told my mommy. What did your mommy do? My mommy did not do anything. How can a 5-year-old know that her mommy did not do anything? Like, that is not good. That means that tomorrow, if something happens again, she won't even tell her because she's like, well, the last time I told her, she didn't do anything. So you must be seen. Parents, you must take action. Let them see that you are vibrating. You did something. It builds confidence. So the next time they are willing to tell you because they know that daddy would fight for me. Mommy would fight for me. And we shouldn't keep making the special needs thing a mommy battle. It's still people that bring children. It's still people that bring children. So please, daddies, get on board the program. Please, I beg of you, don't leave it only to the mommies. It takes two. Please. So yes, have the conversation, talk about boundaries, talk about their bodies, talk about secrets, talk about the fact that there are certain questions that if people ask them, they must let you know about it. And then, of course, as parents, you must be seen taking action when they report to you.
Thank you so much, Ugochi. You said quite a lot of things. And you know, each time we talk about these issues, it's not different. Whatever is happening to neurotypical children or children without disability, it's the same thing that happens and much more to children with disability and special needs. And I can imagine somebody saying, oh, if my child cannot talk, how do I talk about it with my child? While Ugochi was speaking, answering the first question, she said something about simplifying it. If it's a video, if it's a picture, speak to them about it and let them explain the way they understand it too. Okay, so don't say, oh, that's a child that can talk. Oh, that's a child who doesn't have special needs. No. Like I said, research has shown that when it comes to abuse and harassment or physical abuse, these children experience it much more than children without special needs. And the reason they experience it is because we've not given them room to communicate with us. Communication does not have to be verbal. There are different modes of communication. Thankfully, we have a sign language interpreter here. As a parent, please equip yourself with what will help you communicate with your child. Listen to them. They're looking at you in a certain way. They're acting in a certain way. They are communicating to you. And give them a listening ears. Let them feel comfortable with you. Let them feel comfortable. If you think that probably because people say, oh, children have the way of making things up, or the way you ask the question too, we're able to give you better understanding if there's an outer of truth in what the child is saying. And then from there, pay attention. Do your little investigation here and there so that you can have your facts together and then you can help this child. Because, like Ugochi said, when you don't do anything, then they lose that interest in speaking with you at all, in communicating with you at all. So you have to pay attention. They might just be, it may be a look. It may be, like I was saying earlier on, when I was speaking to Ugochi before the program, there's this child that we had at the center. Whenever you come close to this child, it just goes on the defensive. That is something. That alone is a language like you're going to hit me. If a child sees someone and the child is walking away, but even for an example of like Ugochi said, if you bring in an occupational therapy, a physical therapist to your home, it's not enough for you to just trust these individuals. If you cannot afford camera, let someone be there. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing they're doing that is hidden. They are trying to help your child, but then there's something, it's also important that you are also involved. So be there. No one should feel uncomfortable that you're there. I understand the place of, oh, you might want to interfere with the child's learning or what is going on. There's something you can do about that. For my training, when I was in my intervention training, you can be there and behave as if you're not there. So if the child is crying because the child is not enjoying probably the therapy because it's not easy, sometimes the physical therapy can be painful. Understand when you need to step in and just keep quiet and let the professional do their job. But make sure, don't be too trusting, because this is what also happens when you trust people without checking them. Because usually most time there's not much of background check or criminal record on this. Criminal record on this individual. So you have to pay attention, no matter how busy you are. Your child is your first priority. Listen to the body language. When we did the investigation as to that, I spoke to the mother. Each time we come close to your child, he does this. I say, oh, I know why. So and so person beats him. Whenever he asked him to, they just hit him. So each time you come to him, and he's not so verbal. So that's what he does. So it took him time for him to relax. Then you come close to him, and then he stays calm. So we have to be very careful, because sometimes we are the one that give these individuals the access or the room for them to abuse our kids, because we're not paying attention and we're not listening to our kids. So over to you. Thank you so much, Ugochi. You have a way of just hitting the nail on the head and being very practical with answering your question. Now we truly appreciate you. Indeed, you are the safety chick. Any other safety chick is a counterfeit. Thank you so much. So Dr. Jinad, over to you. Like I said, you are going to always do the preventive, So if a child is abused, of course, that's a traumatic experience for that child. Anxiety comes in, fear comes in. How do we help this child to go through this challenge?
All right, thank you for that. Again, let me just also add that you as parents, you also want to pay attention to grooming behaviors of adults around the child. Most abusers, they groom their victims. They groom their victims to the level where their victims start becoming, they groom their victim, and then it becomes very easy to emotionally manipulate their victims. So even without you saying anything, no matter how the parent have talked to the child to even voice out when somebody touched this part, the child would not want to say that against this person that has groomed so much to this level where he feels, or the child feels, is a betrayer. So it's very, very important that parents pay attention to the grooming behaviors of adults around the children, because that can be a manipulative behavior that the child will not be able to even mention anything against that person, even when they are doing what is wrong. So it's very important. Now, an individual has got different level of intervention, and different type of intervention. And different type of intervention. Does the person or the parent wants to seek justice? The justice part is one area. The medical part is another area. It's an adult, and depending on the age of the child. If it is sexual in nature, is there penetration? Is there discharge? Is there sperm? Is there? You want to do all the medical examination to be sure that both infection, both pregnancy, both tear, both whatever medical that you need to take care of is attended to. Now, that this experience live in the child. I've seen a lot of younger people. This is not even individuals with intellectual disabilities. These are, children that so worthless that anybody, it now led to an escapade that anybody and anywhere they just feel they are not worthless. The only way they can gain approval or affirmation is when they allow individuals to have access to them. Seek psychological at whatever level. By the time you start noticing that this person is having psychological difficulties, maybe he's not sleeping well, the person all of a sudden withdrawn to himself, is not interacting or playing with other people, certain things just change around the person that is not assessment that will guide the level of intervention that will met out to individuals who are experiencing this challenge. So there are certain interventions that are very intensive for people who are so traumatized by whatever abuse they're experiencing. And then there are interventions that are mild that would change, help the person understand. Because again, don't forget the guilt also lives with these children. The guilt that I'm the one, it is because of me, it is me, it's because of it's me. That is why this thing happened. It won't happen to every other person. Now that is the beginning of self-esteem issues.
Hmm.
That is the beginning of start trading. I'm relating to sexual abuse now. Start trading sex for affirmation, trading sex for sense of what. There are other certain type of abuse. Could be abuse as a result of negligence. Mom is not always around. Mom is not always around to meet my emotional need. So because we are very busy as parents, we always want to make ends meet, and we get engaged in so many activities that takes up our time, and we are not really available to groom these individuals that are growing up to know, because we are now using it to treat them. At the end of the day, after the mental psychological challenge, you may have developed. So it's very important that abuse is not abuse can be fully occupy as a result of their job. Certain brain structural absences develop, to cause it. Sexual, it could be physical, it could be even financial. You let the person know that because of this, I'm not going to pay your school fees, and the child sees it
Hmm.
as it is still because of me that daddy is not doing this or mommy is not doing this. So there is so much that different types of abuse. But once an individual is abused, once an individual start reacting to it, very important that the manifestation of that abuse and the level to which we can intervene and how much we need to intervene. It's very important that they seek support. Very, very important. Don't just ignore it and say, oh, the child will outgrow it. The children don't outgrow things. It sinks in their unconscious mind, and they know this as a child. Abuse as a child, and I'm sharing it because she had given me permission to do this without mentioning her name. So I think I'm safe with that. Later on in her life, she started noticing that she started having difficulties as a grown-up lady. Before guys were tracing and started discussing, that was when we opened up this wound that is perceived to have healed, that she had forgotten, but that was the source. The experience had gone to our unconscious mind and had started affecting our values, affecting our orientation, affecting things about guys, our sense of family, marriage, and all that. It started becoming very real that this thing was not properly dealt with. She just closed up that wound and then moved on.
At least.
So as parents, don't ignore some of these things. Don't say, okay, there's nothing about this. If you and we stand it, the child would have to suffer for some of these things. We'll have difficulty with some of these things. So there are issues that you don't just ignore. If you go for assessment and they say this issue is okay, then you know that you've done your due diligence and you are okay, that the level to which you can support you've done, and it is a professional that say there is no challenge. But don't just ignore and say the child will outgrow. Always seek both. And if the family want to seek justice, I would encourage them too. I won't force the boy, I would encourage them to, because if it does something to the child, that my parent will always fight for me, that my parent will always, look after my own good through whatever means. So these three cadre of professionals would have to step in based on what the family feels is necessary. I think for me that's where I would want to, but there will always be need for the family to seek that help. Very, very important professional help.
Good. Thank you so much for shedding so much light on that. I would have thought, really, I mean, I would have just, oh, go see. I know that you need to say medical for issues of sexual abuse. Don't just keep it to yourself because one, health-wise, it's not safe for the victim. Secondly, be it a child with special needs or not. Secondly, the psychological effects. So you need to see, just like we always say that special education, special needs has to do with a multidisciplinary approach where you need different professionals. You need the experts, like you need the medical experts. You need the mental health experts, psychologists, and you also, so like you said, if you need to go the legal route, please go ahead so that you can seek justice for the individual. So parents, enough of shaming, enough of being hiding and all of that. You need to do what is right for the sanity and for the help. I mean, for the sake of the child, you need to help this child. So it's not enough for you to keep quiet. We will take the preventive measure and the reactive measure when it comes to the issue of abuse. Thank you so much for Dr. Ginato for this. I want us to go on a 1 minute break and then we'll come back. Answer one more question from me. And if any of our audience have any question for Ugochi and for Dr. Gennaro, please, this is the time for us to ask questions. We have the professional in-house here. We are very, as it is, we are trying to find help on every issue, particularly on the issue of traumatic occurrences, issue of abuses, issue of whatever it is, anxiety, depression. And this is the time, as a parent, as a teacher, teachers, we have work to do. So we'll take a short break now. I'll try and recap some of the things I've learned when we get back, and then we'll go on the last question from me, and then we'll have questions from our audiences. Thank you so much. Please stay put. If you need to catch your breath, drink water, this is the time to do so. Thank you so much.
Dyslexiia, he give anything to make it go away, even though he knows it's here to stay. But Casey won't give up, no, cause you know he's way too tough. He's gonna do whatever it takes. He's gonna find a way. Casey never liked school much. All the kids would laugh when he read in class. Teachers tried to help him out, but they didn't know what to do, so they just let it pass. Sometimes he wanted to scream out loud, hide his head in the sound of the clouds. Dyslexa, he give anything to make it go away, even though he knows it's here to stay. But Casey won't give up, no, no, cause you know he's way too tough. He's gonna do whatever it takes. He's gonna find a way.
I was dancing. Thank you, everyone, for staying with us, and thank you to our guests. Thank you so much, Ugochi. Thank you so much, Dr. Chinadu. For some reason, we've lost Dr. Chinadu. I hope he'll be back soon. So we've learned quite a lot in the last 1 hour thereabout. And for me, it's been, you never, like whenever we come on the show, we keep saying we come to relearn, unlearn, and we come to learn. And that is always the case for me. And I'm sure that's the case for everyone who gather with us every Sunday evening on Finding Up with Special Needs. And today we're talking about traumatic events and families of children with special needs. So in talking about that, talk about the effect on the children, on the parent, how parent can take preventive measures, and how they can take reactive measures just in case things still go, they still experience a traumatic events such as depression, abuses, and all of that, what they can do. And our guests have done what they've good, and they've done justice to responding some of these questions. They've told us how we can, what we can do before, during, and after, how we need to learn to, acquire and equip ourselves with knowledge. When you have issues of, I like the fact that before we went on break, we talk about the things that could happen in case you have issues with sexual abuse for the child. It's not enough to say, oh, because I have special needs, nobody's going to pay attention. Go ahead, seek professional help with the psychologist, seek professional help with the medical doctors, and also seek justice, with the appropriate authority, so that we can help our children with special needs. And then for us, as a parent ourselves, we need to pay attention to what is going on with our child. Pay attention to the way individuals relate to our children. When we're teaching our children about sexuality education, you want to say, you want to let them know that not just your breast, your vagina is a private part, every part of your body is private. Pay attention to who is attending to your child. I always say to teachers, the child has a right. We have to respect the child's dignity. You can't just say, oh, because the child has a special needs, then when you want to take your child to use the restroom, you have to give them their privacy, depending on the level of support the child needs. And if you must be with that child, make sure you have someone else to witness what is going on, so we don't give any room for suspicion that this child is being abused or not. Also, you need to because you are the professional doesn't mean you have all the rights to do and undo. You must be accountable. You must be accountable to someone. So we have to be, and as parents too, let's pay close attention. I know we are busy. I know you found that professional seems to be the savior, so to say, but there's a role you have to also play. I hope Dr. Tinaji is still with us, because I would like him to also be able to answer this question. And I think that question was actually for him. But Ugochi, let's see how you can help us out with this question that I have, and then we'll take questions from our audience. So we know that
Okay.
I belong to different parent support groups, and and I know you also lost your mother very dear to you. I don't know what age you were then, but how would you encourage parents? Because sometimes they lose their kids. It could be due to things that are beyond their control. Sometimes disability can take a child away. Sometimes it could be an act of negligence. What advice would you give to this parent on how to go through such traumatic experiences?
Okay, so loss is not something that you can just wake up and then you are fine. You would it goes through a phase. You have to go through the phase, and you must also give yourself the benefit of doubt to heal at your own rate. Don't force. Oh, somebody said, oh, they grieve for 3 months and they are fine. You are not that somebody. You need to go through it at your own pace, right? And the truth is, even when you have healed, there will be things that would happen that would make you remember, that would make you maybe, for example, I come on social media and I see somebody that looks like my mom, so I would remember, right? But now when I remember, I don't remember with so much pain. I just wish she was here. So there are many things I would have loved to just her about, but that's not the case. So the first thing is, don't legislate the duration of your grief to be the way other people's own are. Allow yourself to go through the phase, feel your pain. Now, one of the things that really helped me in particular when I lost my mom, and some other losses I have encountered, is God. And because I'm a Christian, I believe so much in God. God has been my support. So as a person going through loss, you need to find a spiritual anchor, because if you don't have something that is beyond you, that can give you a support beyond now, you can't go through this alone. You need that support, right? So you need that spiritual anchor. And for me, I got it from my relationship with God. And the reason I got it from my relationship with God is, I grew up in a family where I had seen real miracles happen. We had prayed for certain things to happen, and we saw it happen. So I remember one of the things I said to God was, I know that if it was not necessary for my mom to die now, to leave us now, you could have found a way to stop it. So if you didn't stop it, just maybe there is something about this that is just necessary at this time. And so it really helped me, because I had that strong spiritual background because of the family I grew up in. Then another thing that helps again is also having a good support system. People that understand that it's okay for you to grieve, it's okay for you to feel sad, and they're not saying, be a man, be a man. No, it's not like be a man or be a woman. Yeah, be a human being. Go through your feelings, feeling. So me, when people hurt me, like when they really hurt me, I cry. But I cry silent cries, like nobody even hear I'm crying. Yeah, I'll just be dropping. Then when I finish, I'll clean my eye, I'll get up and do what I need to do. And I mean, the whole world will even know that, oh, which has just gone through something traumatic, right? But I allow myself to grieve. And then I also find my reading, the things that make me happy. So I'm someone, I thrive in love. I thrive in loving friendships. So my friends, they finish me with love. They are checking up on me, voice notes, calls, messages, and all those kinds of stuff. And the reason I can do that for me is because they know I will do it for them to say, get you to be a good human being. So that people can also be there for you genuinely, right? So have the spiritual anchor. Don't legislate the duration of your grief. It's okay to feel bad, but when you feel bad, still find a way to get up. Find the things that make you happy, the things that raise your energy level, and dwell in it. Then get your support system. Because the truth is, you can't do it alone. See, when I see people that are trying to be forming, they are strong for the whole world, it's foolishness. It's foolish. I'm a strong person, but I also know when I should relax and let someone else carry the load for me. Because if you keep carrying it by yourself, at some point you are going to break down. And you will break down in a way that will be difficult for you to come back up. And you really do not want that to happen. Most especially when maybe you have other children, you have other responsibilities. You can't allow that to happen. So you've got to, find your inner strength. And confessions help. Confessions help. So some people call it affirmations. I call it confession. So for example, I have things I say to myself at every watch, 6 a.m., 9 a.m., 12, and all that. But something I say to myself every day at 9 a.m., aside the scripture I recite to myself, I say, Ugochi is mentally and physically strong to do what she's supposed to do. Because, you see, there are times that you're really down and you need mental strength. You need physical strength so that you can show up. So there are times that I was so down in the morning, right? But I had things to do, and then I will have to, psych myself up, and then I'll get up and show up, and I'll do so well that you even know that this girl was not okay in the morning, right? Yeah, so you must be able to tap into your inner strength. So I've talked about a spiritual anchor. I've talked about a support system. I've talked about don't legislate the duration of your grief. It's okay to feel down. It's okay that even when you are strong, sometimes again you feel down. Yeah, go through it. Lean into your support systems and just um just allow yourself to feel it. You get better. You get better, and that's the truth about it. At some point, you feel stronger than how you used to feel. That doesn't mean that you will never feel that pain again. It will come once in a while, but then you are better off than where you were at the very beginning.
Absolutely. Wow. Thank you, Gochi. You know, I wasn't sure if the question was meant for you, but at some point, I mean, I just felt that ask she had been through that and she'd be able to advise parents and give them a way of answering it. And we had Dr. Jinadu back. I wanted him to speak to us on the professional point of view of how to deal with the loss of a child, you know, because we know that sometimes children with disability die early due to some of the congenital, I mean, kind of the conditions that they go through. I mean, there are different things that could cause the death of a child with special needs. And then the whole idea was just share from his professional point of view on what to do. But you've done really, I have had to, I've experienced loss too. And it's almost what you said, almost everything you said was what I had to go through. Luckily for me, I was able to speak to Dr. Jinadu, and that was almost everything we talk about. Allow yourself to grieve wherever you are at the stage of grief, be it in denial, be it in shock, wherever you are, be there and be present so that you can go through that stage very well. Just like Ugochi said, it's not as if they will not come back, but you are better off when those feelings come back again, you know. So yes, if we're not able to get Dr. Jinadu back, we'll still have questions and would answer to the best of our abilities, and then we'll call it a day for today. I'm trying to go through the comments. Let's just read out some of the comments, you know. Everyone is saying hello to you, Ugochi and Dr. Jinadu. Well, good evening, hello. Good evening, hello. Wealth. Everyone is just saying hello. I guess, you know, I always say to people, whenever there are no questions, you've done justice to the question you have been asked, they understand it, and they do have questions for you. So far, I can't see any question. If our audience have any question, please, it's time you ask those questions that are burning in your heart when it comes to traumatic events and special needs. I can't see any question, and unfortunately, we are not able to have Dr. Jinadu back. So this is where we call it a day. And I want to thank everyone for always making the date. Ugochi, this means a lot to me because I can imagine having to juggle within 2 events. This means a lot to me and to every one of us listening to you. Thank you so much for sharing from your heart. Again, in absentia, I want to say thank you to Dr. Jinadu for making it a time with us today. We've learned quite a lot, and we are grateful to our guests for giving us the best of themselves when it comes to this topic of traumatic occurrences and parents of children with special needs and even the children themselves. Until we come your way again next time, I remain Lola Aneke. Ugochi, do you have any parting words for any parent of a child with special needs before we call it a day?
Okay, so first of all, I want to say thank you to you for allowing me to come and share my thoughts with your audience. I really appreciate that. Then to the parents, I would just say that please try and get as much support as possible. Don't try to go through this alone. The load will be too much for you. Please get support. And daddies, please support mommies in this. It's not there is no one parent thing. Please, by all means, support your spouse.
Thank you, Gochi. You're just awesome. I have no better words to describe you. Thank you for keeping it real. Thank you so much. We truly appreciate you. Thank you, Mr. Alex. Thank you for always being here to make this show inclusive. We truly appreciate you too. Everyone, thank you for. I can see. Let me see. I can see some comment. Oh, they say thank you to you, Gochi. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we look forward to having a swell time again with you next week. Don't forget to grab your copy of the Dyslexia Bible. Thank you, and have a blessed week, everybody. Bye-bye.
D-Y-S-L-E-X-I-A. He'd give anything to make it go away, even though he knows it's here to stay. But Casey won't give up, no, no, cause you know he's way too tough. He's gonna do whatever it takes. He's gonna find a way. Casey never liked school much. All the kids would laugh when he read in class. Teachers tried to help him out, but they didn't know what to do, so they just let it pass. Sometimes he wanted to scream out loud, hide his head in the sound of the clouds. D-Y-S-L-E-X-I-A. He give anything to make it go away, even though he knows it's here to stay. But Casey won't give up, no, no, cause you know he's way too tough. He's gonna do whatever it takes. He's gonna find a way.